Hola fellow travelers, Mark here with Walter's World, and today we are in Cancun, Mexico, having a great time. Mexico is near and dear to my heart. My dad worked here for years. I got to come down with him for work, and his colleagues from Mexico came up to our house, and I got to translate for him since I was a little kid. And I've really always had a deep love and passion for Mexico because there's so many awesome things here. The people, the food, all kinds of great stuff. But I'm not going to focus on the good today. What I want to focus on today are the things you don't do when you do go to Mexico so you can have a better time, okay? And the first don't is don't mess with Montezuma. Look, Montezuma's revenge is a real deal. He will come and get you. Oh, for those of you that don't know what Montezuma's revenge is traveler's diarrhea. And the thing is, you want to avoid this. So the thing you need to know is you don't drink the water from the tap here in Mexico. It has to be bottled water, okay? And if you're in those different places, make sure that that seal on the bottled water is sealed. It's not been refilled. Because if you get the water here, you can have some really big troubles. And the thing is, it's not just the water. Also, think about it. The ice. You gotta watch out for the ice. Now, if you're in places like Cabo and Cancun, usually ice is filtered, so your frozen margaritas at your all-inclusives, they'll be just fine. But just know that you can get nailed from the ice and the water when you are around Mexico, so do be careful with that. Also, with that with Montezuma stuff, think about it. Washed vegetables, if you have fruits, unpeeled fruit, stuff like that, undercooked meat, that can get you too. So make sure you do pay attention, okay? Because don't let Montezuma get you, okay? Because he's looking for you, and he will get you. First time I came to Mexico, it took 5 doses of Imodium to stop it. Actually, you could say 6, but I think it was pretty much stopped after 5, but I wasn't taking any chances because he got me. He got me good, okay? Now, the second don't I have for you is don't lose your immigration card when you come in. Now, when you fly into Mexico, they're going to come in and you're going to fill out these forms, immigration forms, and they're going to either rip off the bottom part and stamp it and give it to you. Make sure you keep that the whole trip. You don't really need it while you're here, but when you leave, you'll turn that back in when you go. So just make sure you do have that. So don't lose it, okay? Don't be, it's just a little piece of paper. No, put that in your passport, keep it locked up in your hotel, and you'll be okay. Now, the third don't I have for you is don't expect your, how would I say this, your restaurant Mexican food Spanish to really translate very well here. Yes, they have gorditas here, but gordita in Taco Bell is completely different than the gordita you have here in Mexico. And you're going to see is, man, the Mexican food you have at home, whether you're going to more or less a Tex-Mex place in the US or Europe or other places, pales in comparison to the Mexican food you'll have here. So don't just get stuck ordering tacos and quesadillas because you know what those are and they're on the menu. Try the other things. Have the flautas, have the enchiladas, have, the gorditas, the sopes, oh my God, the food's here so good. Oh, the soup. The fish here, the goat by Mexico City. I mean, there's so much amazing food. Yes, you're gonna have your churros when you can from some vendor at some side street or a market. You're gonna have great food here. So don't just order what you're used to at your Mexican restaurant at home. Go out and explore. What we do, we've got Jesus, our buddy, at one of our favorite little hole-in-the-wall places we go to here, and we say, hey, just give me 3 of something, okay? And he comes out every time. It is so good. And there's lots of different regional dishes around Mexico that you can try. So make sure you ask, what's regional? Yeah, go for it. Try that because you will really enjoy the food. I won't lie to you about that. Now, my fourth don't is don't forget to brush up on your Spanish before you come to Mexico. Look, I know if you're coming to Cancun or Cabo, you're like, well, everybody speaks English. Look, those Cancun and Cabo, not exactly the most Mexican of the Mexican places. I mean, it's a tourism place, okay? And so, of course, they're going to speak more English because that's what the tourists speak that come here. But if you really want to get to know the people and you're traveling inland, especially of Mexico, you need to know some Spanish. Even just the basics of gracias, thank you, por favor is please, and de nada, you're welcome, and hola, which is hi. These things make a big difference, and the people really appreciate it. And I've seen it where I spoke some Spanish to people, and they really opened up because the people really are fantastic. But you do need to know a little bit of Spanish, so don't think, I don't need to brush up on my Spanish class I had in high school. No, just know like 5 to 10 words to get you started, and it will make a big difference. Because saying that por favor and the gracias, people's faces light up, especially here in Cancun, where most of the tourists come and speak no Spanish whatsoever. Do that. It really makes for a greater trip. And if you're inland, it's really essential that you know a little bit of Spanish to get by. Now, the fifth don't I have for you is don't forget to tip. Look, here in Mexico, the people that are working, they do live off the tips like in the US and other places because their base salary is very low. So if you're going to be waiters and bartenders, you're tipping them 10 to 20% on your bill. You're doing that. If you pay with a credit card, sometimes they just automatically add it on there. So sometimes you don't have to worry about it. So make sure you ask if the propina, the tip, is included, okay? But it's not just bartenders and waiters you tip. The cleaning staff for your hotel, they live off the tips too. So make sure you tip them. Usually they recommend, between 50 and 100 pesos per day. The more dirty you are, the more you leave. The less dirty you are, 50 pesos, which is like $2.50, $3, something like that. So I think you can spare that, especially because a lot of people come here to Mexico and just party crazy. If your room's a mess, tip them more. I mean, come on. Now, my sixth don't for Mexico is don't take the first price as the last price. Look, if you're going to go to markets, you're signing up for tours out on the street and stuff like that, they're always going to quote you a super high first price, and you've got to negotiate down from there. Now, when you go to the markets, it's every single stall. You're like, hey, how much is that shirt? Or how much is that souvenir? $30. Oh, well, let's negotiate down. I'm going to get it for like 15 or something like that, or whatever. And it's the same thing with taxis. You don't just get in the taxis. You want to negotiate the price before you get in. Tell them where you want to go, and they'll say, oh, well, what about 15? How about 10? Okay. And you can do that. Now, it can get a bit annoying after a while, keep negotiating, but that is part of the deal. You can save a lot of money and a lot of stuff if you just negotiate, okay? Also, if you're in places like Cancun and Cabo and other tourist destinations that have a lot of these people that are selling tours, sometimes what you can do is you can negotiate a better deal on your tour if you just talk to them. It's like, hey, what if I sign up for another tour? What are some other things out there? And you can get a better deal, okay? Now, our seventh don't for you is don't pass up a chance to hang out with some of the locals. Like I said, look, if you know a little Spanish, the people really open up and they'll really want to share their experiences and their love of Mexico and the culture with you. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've been going around Mexico. I mean, one of my favorite memories, I was in Guadalajara. Okay, I'm in Guadalajara. I meet some girls on the street, just talking to them. They're whistling at me. I whistle back. We talk for a bit. I end up spending the next 3 days with them showing me around Guadalajara. And the best is when their grandma found out that I didn't have lunch. She's like, no, you come to our house. And so we went to their house, and their grandma, the abuela, she made me quesadillas like right there. It's like, you need one of these. I wasn't big then. I was skinny then. She's like, you're too skinny. It was hilarious. But the people are so warm and so welcoming and so helpful that literally, I mean, we're walking down the street, people are like, hi, and we'll have a conversation with the people. That's why I say, know a little bit of that Spanish, and it goes a long way because the people here really are great. So don't pass up a chance to hang out with them. They are really cool. However, I will say this, the Mexican people are super nice and friendly. The stray dogs on the street might not be, so don't go pet the dogs, okay? Little add-on to the Mexican people thing is, don't pet the dogs, because I've seen a lot of tourists here going, oh, look at that little puppy, and it's like, I'm like, oh my goodness. So just stay away from the stray dogs. You will see them occasionally. Just don't hang out with them, all right? Now, my eighth don't for you here in Mexico is don't drive if you don't have to. Look, the public buses between cities and stuff like that are really good, so you'll be okay using them. So please do use them. But if you're gonna drive, realize there are some don'ts we have for you. One, don't drive at night, okay? And if you're in the mountains, be extra careful. And definitely don't drive in the mountains at night because you will have the locals that know how to drive really fast in these mountains and you don't. It can be dangerous. And also, sometimes people aren't as, let's say, nice. I talk about the wonderful, nice Mexican people. Sometimes the cops might try to rip you off at night. It has happened. I remember my dad telling me all kinds of stories for it. Met some tourists last night. They had to pay their fine. If you get a speeding ticket in Mexico and you're not a local, I mean, you're not a citizen, they'll make you pay it on the spot. So you got to have that money to pay that parking ticket, or not the parking ticket, that speeding ticket right away. So I do recommend just don't do their driving when you are here. There's lots of other options out there. Also with the driving is realize it can be quite dangerous. I mean, I know when we were driving around in Cancun the other day, we almost got killed by 3 different buses on a 15-minute taxi ride. So do be careful with that. Now, my ninth don't for you is you don't lick it, slam it, suck it with the tequila here in Mexico. In Mexico, the tequila is so good. You can get such good tequila here that you literally drink it from a glass, okay? Just drink it. Oh, that's so good, so smooth. And the thing is, if you want to mix it, you have a grapefruit soda like Squirt or Fresca or Fanta grapefruit. You have that, mix those together. Seriously, changed my life. I had to write Fanta. I'm like, Fanta, I'm your new #1 fan. That stuff is awesome. And you mix that with the tequila and you drink it like a drink. But I will say, be careful with it. Don't go overboard, because the tequila is so smooth, you won't notice you're drinking it as fast, and you will get loopy really quick, okay? So do be careful with it. And my 10th don't for you is, don't think that Cabo and Cancun are the epitome of Mexico. It's kind of like saying Orlando and New York are exactly what all of America is like, or all the US is like, or Munich and Rothenburg Obertauber are exactly what, Germany is like. No. Look, these are tourist meccas. They have all kinds of stuff geared for the tourists. And if you get out of those places, you get to see more of you kind of like, people say it's like real Mexico. Like my Mexican friends back home were laughing at me. Oh, you're going to Mexico? Where are you going? I'm like, oh, Cancun. Like, oh, so you're going to America again. I'm like, no, I mean, yes, I can understand what they mean with the hotels and all this kind of stuff. But if you want to get out and see real Mexico, you got to get outside of Cabo and Cancun. They're both awesome places though, and they are part of Mexico. Just like New York and Orlando are part of the US, it's the same thing here, but realize this is a part of the country. So go and explore, because no matter where you go in Mexico, it is a fantastic place. Yes, there's some issues in certain places. I do recommend looking up safety information in different states and stuff like that before you go, but I say that about every place you go, okay? So do be smart, have a great time. Don't worry about not having a good time in Mexico though, because the people are awesome, the food is awesome, and there's so many great things to do. So I'll say adios de Mexico. So if you want to learn more about visiting Mexico, 5 things you love and hate about visiting Mexico, 10 things that'll shock you about visiting Mexico, the don'ts of Cancun, 5 things you love and hate about Cancun, what you should know before you come to Mexico. Check us out on our website at waltersworld.com. We're also on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, obviously YouTube, and we really appreciate your likes, subscriptions. And if you do subscribe to our YouTube channel, we do put out 2 new travel videos every single week from all over the world. So I'll say adios again from Cancun, and you have a great time here in Mexico. Don't worry, I'm sure you will. Adios.